in many of the things we do here, we start with the practice of refuge in our meditation practices before teachings. And when I'm sitting in meditation, one of the ways that I like to phrase this for myself is like, why am I here? Why am I here to do this practice? Why am I wanting to meditate on this? And why am I sitting in this monastery? Why am I here? And yeah, it's kind of like, what are the benefits that what are the benefits that I'm reaping from this practice, this lifestyle, the teachings of the Buddha that keep me coming back? And this is coming up in my mind as, again, recently Venerable Children asked that question or raised the topic around what are the few things that we know to be true from the Buddha's teachings that can provide us with a really solid basis that when we're going through times of difficulty or things are arising, we can come back to ground ourselves and rest upon as a source of refuge and reliance. And in the last 6 years, this topic has come up again and again quite consistently, this encouragement to find these few things in our practice, to really root ourselves in, that we know to be true from our own experience. And there's a few things like this for me, but one that's been arising recently was that I'm really unhappy when afflictions are in my mind. It seems obvious, but by definition, the afflictions disturb the mind. But I'm seeing this more clearly and believing it more strongly, slowly, that it's having more of an impact, beneficial impact. I think just with a little bit more study and a little bit more practice, I'm even just able to identify more frequently, like when I am afflicted, that I didn't even notice before, or willing to admit it to myself when things arise, and more willingness to not point the finger outside of myself as being the problem, but seeing it, it's the way that I'm looking at what is unfolding that's really causing me the most pain here, as opposed to that person, that object, that situation. It's not so easy, I find, to, when the afflictions are really raging or strong, to even see that they're harmful, because they appear to be helping us, at least initially. Like with anger, for me, often it's like I feel that I'm right and someone's harming me. And it can increase this feeling of power. But it's so unpleasant to have enemies. And that feeling of anger and wanting to push away or to harm is very unpleasant, and causes us to do things that we really regret. Also with jealousy, there's such a feeling of separateness and therefore loneliness in this mind of lack. And again, there's enemies because someone has something with these qualities that I can't bear them to have, and I'm wanting to either destroy it or take it for myself. And with attachment or greed, there can be an initial form of excitement that's there, but the agitation is so unpleasant. This lack of contentment, and this very narrow focus on getting what I want when I want it. And so easily falling into anger. And again, there's enemies, because often someone or something or some situation is obstructing me from getting what I want. And then there's this struggle. And it's just interesting, just reflecting on this, again, also, with arrogance, easily irritated, offended, feeling isolated, separate, and again, there's enemies. And just this theme of there being enemies coming up with the afflictions from just different sides, again, just illuminated for me just how unpleasant this is and how unhappy it is having these painful states of mind. And then coming back to Shantideva's verse around how discontent or unhappiness is the root of anger. And for me, what's alive there is just this need to catch it small. Anger is kind of loud and gets the attention, but there's this opportunity, this chance to catch it when it's small, when the discontent is just starting to rumble in my mind, or there's these small agitations that I can kind of be more willing to notice and slow down and do something about it, so that the afflictions don't burst forth in a more violent way. And paired with this truth that I know in my own experience, that I'm really unhappy when the afflictions are in my mind, is that there is the freedom to choose. I guess that's the whole power of the Buddha's teachings, is that we're not stuck with these painful states of mind that we can't do anything about, but rather we can transform them. And there is, ever increasingly, as we learn to know ourselves more and more and get some tools in our belt, that we have the freedom to choose to think about a situation differently. As the teachings that we received last night on the potential of the mind and the potential for liberation is that, we don't have these afflictions present in our mind in every single moment. They arise when we come into contact with certain objects or different ways of thinking. But we can change this. These afflictions are just blips in the mind. They can be very powerful blips in the mind that we can grab hold of and then run with for our own and others' misery. But we have a choice, actually, when we see it just arise, to recognize it for what it is and replace it with a more helpful state of mind, such as love, compassion, wisdom. And even if we can't shift the afflictions right as they're arising, for me, it's often just keep your mouth shut. And that solves so many problems in and of itself. But more profoundly, to try and actually see the situation in a different way. To admit, it's like, okay, there's afflictions in my mind. I'm not seeing this clearly. Can I try and see this differently? And there's a whole world of opportunity that opens up just in that single line of thought.